it's got a fair degree of deprivation. The community people seem to be a lot more together than they were 25, 30 years ago. Obviously, you're aware there was riots in Oldham, I think in 2001, but I've spoken to lots of people, and some of a lot of the estates are more mixed than they were back then, and you get a distinct feeling things are better. But obviously, there's poverty levels, there's high levels of child poverty, mental health issues. Obviously, it's the same as other local authorities where the central government funding has been withheld from various services. They need an MP who's going to be responsive and listen to them. Obviously, the Palestine-Gaza situation is a major issue. I'm confident there's thousands of people who would have voted Labour 5 years ago and not going to vote Labour anymore in Oldham West. The Labour MP, Jim McMahon, has refused to meet people. He's not responded to emails. I looked at his social media a while ago. He didn't mention Gaza or Palestine for months, so people are pretty annoyed about it. I was at hustings at one of the Oldham mosques in Glodick about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and there's 6 or 7 candidates turned up, but the two Oldham Labour MPs didn't turn up. So again, that seems disrespectful. But they want somebody who's got some principle. Obviously, the MP can't do everything, and it's still obviously down to government policies, isn't it, regarding austerity and the 2-child benefit cut. But you need somebody who's got to at least be able to speak up on issues and have principles. No, not at all. I think the Labour MP basically put his career first when it came to the vote on the ceasefire in November, where he didn't vote for a ceasefire. He's like a shadow. He's still a shadow minister, where, as some people did, effectively resign their positions, because they went against Starmer in that rebellion. Yeah, absolutely. I'm an activist, basically. So I believe if I got elected MP, I'd be there to amplify the movement on the streets. I wouldn't be separate from the movement on the streets. And I've been on dozens and dozens of the protests in London, Bolton, Oldham, Manchester, spoken on the more local ones. To me, I'm on the Unison National Executive Council. I've been for 15 years. I'm on the international committee of that NEC, so I'm the vice chair of that. So basically, I'm directly involved in making the Unison policy on Palestine, which we have got pretty good policy on, although perhaps the leadership need to promote it a bit more amongst the members. I'm not. I don't think anybody would say I'm somebody who's jumped on a bandwagon, which is perhaps some independents have over Palestine. I think it's a lost cause, Labour, in my sort of personal opinion. And it was always banging your head against a brick wall. I was part of that Labour link. I was an NEC member for a year or two. That was like 3 or 4 years ago. And I never thought the union leadership was seriously trying to influence Starmer. I think probably Unite were a bit more serious. They get a bit more annoyed, don't they, Unite, with Starmer. But I think it's just a massive uphill battle. And they've changed the rules for electing a leader of Labour now. The last 18 months, hardly a single person who called left wing has got selected as a candidate having in Labour. I mean, I'm surprised Faiza Shaheen got so far, and then they basically manoeuvred to remove her, didn't they? But now she's standing as an independent. Absolutely, practically from day one, because I think it's in there already seems to be watering down the sort of the new workers' rights, the workers' deal, and I'm sure people at Mandelson are in the background, and big business are like in the ear of the Labour leadership, saying, water all this stuff. But there's not a lot of it to start off with, to be honest. But what there is there, they want to water down, don't they? So I'm confident, because Starmer seems to be an authoritarian character to me. If you look, if you look at the way he runs the Labour Party by diktat, there's something, quite a lot of insecurity there, I think, isn't it? It's my Labour Party, my changed Labour Party. He will run the country in the same way, an authoritarian way. Well, I would listen more. I wouldn't turn down invitations to meetings to meet people. I would seek to open an office in the Oldham town centre to be more accessible. And I think the problem with the main failed establishment parties now is they've got the party whips, they've got corporate lobbyists, corporate donors, so they can't be their own people anymore. They can't be responsive to. That's what being an independent is important to me. It's about being responsive to the needs and commands of the communities. Yeah, it was probably a minority of candidates from what I've seen in sort of 2 or 3 weeks ago. You've got another independent who is pro-Palestine but doesn't seem to have any longer-term record of campaigning or activism, certainly not in the trade unions. There's somebody who is an independent, but also he seems to have a personal vendetta against the sort of the Oldham Council, and he seems a divisive figure. I mean, they had their leaflets out quite early, as I did, but I've seen no Tory leaflets, no Reform UK leaflets. I don't think I've seen Green leaflets, to be honest. There are eight candidates in Oldham West. I mean, one thing that sort of goes beyond the candidates in Oldham West and myself, I have noticed, because my part of Greater Manchester, sort of Droylsden, Ashton, Oldham, there seems to be very, very few, window posters, hardly any at all. So I don't know if that means people are just disillusioned with the main parties. They don't feel enthusiastic. They're pretty angry, I think, about the state of the country, over a whole number of issues, but they don't seem enthusiastic for Labour or Tory or Lib Dem, certainly. It's been terrible. I said I've had conversations with lots of people in Oldham who would have voted Labour 5 years ago and not going to vote Labour now. I mean, the collective punishment quote of Starmer, that he supports Israel withholding water, food, electricity and medicine to 2 million Gazans. It's clearly collective punishment and a war crime. And I think his statements have given the green light, and somebody Sunak's as well, they're giving a green light to the genocide, haven't they? And it's just a totally morally bankrupt position, morally repugnant. And when they took a month to even talk about a ceasefire, and even then I'm not even sure it's genuine. It's full of conditions and caveats. It's basically saying all the Israelis can do what they want to the end, but we'd like a ceasefire. It doesn't seem genuine. Well, it probably won't be through the sort of Labour link structures, the official structures. I think it's going to be through industrial disputes with Labour. There may probably well still be the clamp down on the protest. Obviously, green issues are very important tonight. It's important to me as well about the climate disaster. Young people are understandably going to want to continue to protest about that. And it's not even me surmising, it's all on video, isn't it? It's on record, because Starmer years ago was supporting the right of people to protest over green issues. And now he's saying, no, I'm going to clamp down. So that is undoubtedly what they're going to do. If they get mass protests over the environment, they will try to clamp down on it. Yeah, I'm certainly for a Green New Deal and a just transition. I think the slogan was like for 1 million climate jobs, wasn't it? It was to not make people redundant, but to transition from different types of to newer types of employment, high skill, high tech, green jobs. So they have done it in some countries in Europe to some degree of success. And yeah, you're right. I think it was £28 billion, wasn't it, for the green improvement plan, and that's been whittled down to a few £billion now. Because obviously, as with everything else, they don't want to commit. That's one of the things that I think has infuriated people in this election. It's all about, oh yeah, we must have lower taxes. You know, a lot of people, they do want to pay higher taxes, want to tax the rich. Yeah, it's a public service. You don't mind taxing higher off people, or even middle earners don't mind paying a bit more tax if they think it's going to go to public services, education, and NHS and so on. And there's a lot of dishonesty there, I think, about the state of the economy and the country and what it would need to improve things. And they're pretending they can just things can stay the same, or people can pay even less tax, and somehow that's going to improve the situation. Well, obviously, his public pronouncements on Gaza are shocking and awful. He's obviously clamped down on Labour Party democracy, hasn't he? He's got rid of women who are of colour and gay people who are candidates, and he's put white men from the NEC of Labour in, like this Akehurst character in North Durham, and it looks just total corruption to me. The local parties, they've got no say on it. You've got to have local party democracy, surely. Otherwise, what's the point? Well, I say look at the case of Jeremy Corbyn in Islington North, because I really, really hope Jeremy gets re-elected as an independent on the 4th of July, because that would be a massive blow to Starmer. And we still got Jeremy's voice in Parliament. But if he's joined by a bunch of other independent people, there's Andrew Feinstein, isn't there, in Holborn and St Pancras, and Faisal Shaheen, Chingford and Wood Green. If we got a bunch of MPs in there, it's the basis for something building going forward. And I don't think Starmer government would last 5 years. I think it's would be in crisis 2 years in, or even 18 months in. Obviously, the big danger is the far right try to capitalise on the undoubted discontent there will be with the Starmer government. But we need to build a radical left as like an alternative pole, and I think it's probably the best chance we've had that for decades, because it took years under Blair for some sort of left current to emerge after the Iraq War. But the fact we've got these independent socialists coming through now, even before Starmer gets elected, is quite remarkable, I think. And obviously on the bigger scale, things are happening. Politics is changing massively, isn't it? France and Germany, where you've got polarisation, the far right in France, obviously, but you've got La France Insoumise, part of the Jean-Luc Mélenchon's part of the Union Populaire. They seem to have got their act together quite quickly in terms of getting like an umbrella organisation. So politics is changing fast. The NHS, we need to keep that out of the hands of global corporations. Child poverty is a big issue in a lot of areas. So obviously the two child benefit cap, which Labour is keeping, that would be the easiest way to lift a lot of children out of poverty, to remove the 2 child benefit cap. People in insecure housing, people with children got cramped spaces, people in private rented sector having to deal with those rents. So we need rent controls. Other countries in Europe have rent controls. So we need to get this thing under, the cost of living. They say inflation might be coming down. It's just probably not going up as quick as it was. But we've had years of this, and our living standards are way, way below what they should have been if we hadn't had the austerity years 15 years ago. But we need to keep on fighting. But I believe I'm a trade unionist. socialist, and the movement on the streets is important to me. And I would aim to, as I said earlier, I would aim to amplify that and be part of, continuing part of that movement and be accountable to the sort of left and socialist movement if elected. Well, I've had very little enthusiasm for Labour, to be honest. I think I was a bit shocked the other day when someone had a Labour poster in the window. They didn't want to read my poster and said, "Oh, we're voting for the Labour MP like we always have." But that's one person. I've spoken to hundreds and hundreds of people, and that's the only person who said that. So Labour could be in for a shock in Oldham West. I'm not saying they're going to get beaten, but they could be down thousands and thousands of votes compared to 5 years ago.